Welcome back to the 3F podcast. As always, your host, Timothy Clayton Cornell, with two special guests today. One is returning and one is a new guest. So let's go with our returning guest first, Trey Triplette. Nice to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So happy to be here.
And the CEO of Huckle, we have Michael Kenny. Hey, Michael, how's it going?
Good, TJ. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So this week, we do have Trey on again, and we did mention last week that we have the partnership with Huckle going on. And obviously, Trey, we talked last week about you being the director of athletic development with, or the DAD. I think that's a great acronym also to put in. But
oh, you never thought about that. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. You're the dad of Huckle.
It's the first time I've heard that. It's awesome.
And Michael, you are the CEO. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast and to allowing me to be a part of this.
Yeah. Thanks for having us, and really excited. I saw the interview that you did with Trey last week. It was really engaging and informative. And like I said, just hearing the DAD acronym already is I haven't heard that yet. Super appropriate.
Well, I think that is probably my best joke the entire time, so I'm glad we got it out of the way. It's only downhill from here. But we have had a small segment on the shows beforehand, and I forgot to mention last week, Trey. Are you drinking anything besides water today?
Not the current time.
I have a Zevia. I've been trying to get Zevia to sponsor this show since episode 1. So if Zevia, if you're listening, please, we would love to have you. And also that is approved by my coach, Trey. It was in the email of approved drinks.
Yeah.
So we can actually dive into this. So Michael, can we get a quick introduction on who you are?
Sure. So CEO of Huckle, which, as you mentioned, Trey and I are partners on it. It's a platform that connects athletes with brands through mutual interests and passions, so that they can collaborate and make money. And this is an idea that has taken me several years to come up with, or actually several years to bring to life. I've always had sports in my background. I'm a marketing guy by trade. My entire background's in marketing. I've worked at big brands like Sony and GoPro. And I also currently have an agency that represents and works with athletes on building their personal brands. So this is something that is really a passion project for me. Being able to help out athletes is really our mission. And, it's from a marketing perspective, to be able to do a pairing where it's done through what people are really passionate about, that makes for authentic marketing. So we always ask athletes when they come on the platform, we understand you love your sport. We understand you like working out and nutrition. What are those passionate things that you're really excited about beyond sports? Because if we can figure out what those are, then we can make meaningful connection with brands that are looking for marketing initiatives with athletes. And so if athletes are speaking from a point of passion, it makes for authentic marketing. So this is something that is really important to me and has been really my entire career sort of led to this point.
Yeah, you knocked out a few of my questions early on talking about that authentic marketing. The first call I had with you before I even met Trey, we talked about one of my passions being like sustainability. And right off the bat, before we even got off the call, you had mentioned me working with Trey. And so finding companies that they care about, that have their values aligned, and also companies finding these athletes that are being true ambassadors. They're not just there to try to give a discount code out. They're actually there to have a relationship build and have the same morals or same values that they work towards, I think is amazing. So you talk about, your history behind it. You've always been in this athletic marketing and this marketing world. So your history is there. How long did you say you've been trying to build Huckle up?
So it's come to fruition, I would say. The concept has always been there. I guess I really didn't know how to build it as a construct. I left GoPro. I was in charge of brand at GoPro globally, and I had an opportunity to work with a lot of the athletes that were on the roster. And what I realized was, in addition to their sport, there were just all of these fantastic stories about individuals. And then I went and formed a business after I left GoPro, which is working with professional athletes. And it's how to really build your personal brand. So you do one thing on the field or on the court. How do you leverage that into more financial opportunities? And one of the things that I always looked at was, the average tenure of athletes is very, very small. An average tenure of an NFL athlete is less than 2 years. And so I'm always looking to the athlete to say, how do you parlay what you're doing right now, this circle of influence that you have as an athlete, this awareness that you have because you're on stage, how do you parlay that into other financial opportunities? So I had been concepting this idea for years. And literally there was one day where it like hit me and I was like, you know what, this is name, image, and likeness had not come online yet. I knew it was imminent. And I was looking for something where I knew that there was a marketing component to it. I knew the deals part was a part of it. But I also think within the world of name, image, and likeness that, you can pay to play, just as you mentioned, is one way to do it. But we're seeing a lot of like really bad marketing efforts, which is sure they got the money for it, but does it really help the brand? That's a question mark for me. And so what we're trying to do is make it meaningful for both parties. Have it be longevity, right? So if it goes well for both parties, the likelihood that they're going to work together longer is probably there. The effectiveness from marketing as a whole is definitely there because it's authentic. And so just all of these concepts sort of came together and I was like, I think this is it. And now is the time. So with name, image, and likeness launching, that was sort of the catalyst to bring all this together.
Yeah, and you talk about the authentic marketing. Both Ty and I were talking about this weekend. We had a tournament together this weekend down in Atlanta, and we talked about it would be so easy to go to any company that is asking for athletes if you have a big following, but finding the one that you care for, that you're willing to put extra in, like you said, it creates that long-term relationship. It's past the monetary side. Obviously, the monetary side is very important, but you create that long-term relationship, which is going to open more avenues later for the athletes and for the business.
Exactly right.
And so you said you've been working on this, and things have been coming online. Who around you has helped you create Huckle?
Well, Trey, who's on this call, very, very significant contributor to that. And how we met was actually a cool story. I was doing my son was at a local high school here in San Diego. And I did a sponsorship at their football games with my agency, which is called Three Big Wheels. It was about name, image, and likeness. And Trey calls me out of the blue and he's like, hey, I heard what you're doing with name, image, and likeness. We connected right away. We've been working every day since that phone call. And Trey's got this amazing background of being very, very close to the athlete side of it, knowing what the athletes are looking for, knowing what the athletes are struggling with right now. So he's really got this perspective that I don't have and he brings to the table. So first and foremost, it would be Trey. And then, a lot of other people. So my wife is actually involved with the company right now, helping us get it going because we're, it's shoestring budget. We're raising capital right now. So it's literally like all of these different people around us that have been contributing in some fashion. So a lot of people, I think, in terms of support, individual contributors of people just coming on saying they believe, and then athletes like yourself coming onto the platform and being like, you know what, I've been looking for this for a long period of time. This is really solving something in the marketplace that I needed. And so those stories that we're getting literally on a daily basis right now is what's keeping us going. So it's this small team of we've got an intern that's studying abroad in London right now. He's contributing, Akash. And so it's this very small team that's pulling this together and making it happen. It's really exciting.
Yeah, and I want to turn to you. Obviously, we talked last week a lot on your business side and what you run. What really drew you to coming into Huckle? What brought you in whenever you met Michael?
Just seeing his kind of understanding and passion for not only NAL, but just for the athletes and wanting to create a situation where the athletes can actually thrive and prosper and, leverage their personal brands. And we just very like-minded and really had the same type of approach and kind of same outlook on athletes and their ability to market themselves and get compensated for it. And so we talked, like you said, and just, we were kind of on the same page just as far as how to kind of lay out the platform and different kind of features and how it would, connect and the athletes would collaborate and the companies would collaborate. So just kind of very, very similar mindsets and very similar approaches towards all this.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I said, you got these people standing behind it. I think, well, one, in the world right now, you're seeing a lot of businesses that move to automating everything, and no one wanted to deal with a person anymore as far as the business is. Well, now people want that interaction. They want something they believe in. They want to stand behind a business. That's what Huckle is creating. That's why when Ty talked about it, when I talked to Ty, we'll have him on next week. I was instantly like, yeah, I want to be a part of this. I've had people ask me now that they've seen me posting about it, like, well, what is Huckle? What does it stand for? When you create this business that people actually agree with, you're going to have these individuals, you're going to have these businesses come together. And, you talked beforehand that we're in this beta right now. What is something that maybe these businesses that maybe they're just a little hesitant? What is something that you can offer these businesses since we are in that beta if they try to come on board?
Yeah. So it is beta, as you mentioned. So beta, it's our first product. We have an entire product roadmap of what we want to build. The reality is the first investment that we had was really to bring the product online, make sure that the user experience is nice and that, it actually works. We work out all the bugs. And then we have been very pragmatic in not making a lot of noise around making our launch. So this is a soft launch. Didn't do a press release around it. It's really been word of mouth. And that allowed us to be able to go out and actually work with the athletes, be very personal in our approach about our interest in helping them. And then from the company side, we've been having a lot of conversations with actually from mom and pop shops all the way to very large brands that want to do national campaigns, actually even international campaigns. So the unique thing now is because our success is based on both parties joining the platform. So we need the athletes, and certainly the athletes are going to come on because they're looking for financial opportunities. We also need the brands and companies to come on so that we're actually bringing that, the money to the marketplace. So what we're doing right now, because we're in beta and we're in this very hands-on approach right now, we want to make sure that the experience is living up to what our hope is that it's going to be. And then from a perspective of both the athlete and the brand side, we want to make sure that it is a functional marketplace. It lives up to their standards. So right now we're actually working with any company or brand that comes on to actually help them with their marketing initiative. One of the things that we know that's going to happen right now, and we've even experienced it just being in the market for the short period of time, is that companies may want to work with athletes. They don't necessarily know how to do that, what that means. So we're there to help with that education part. One of the things that we're going to be doing as an initiative on our platform is actually educating the company side. What does it mean to work with athletes? How do you work with athletes? How do you select athletes? All of those things to make them successful. And then from the athlete side, we're going to be doing things of what does it mean to build your personal brand? How do you leverage what you're doing as your sport into other passions that you're doing? So we're all about education, but in the interim, while we're in the beta, it's very much hand-holding. We're trying to help everybody on the platform because we have the time to do it and we haven't rolled it out in mass scale right now.
So I've always brought this up from early on in the episodes, the value add that you're bringing in, you're bringing companies in and you're not just like saying, hey, I have a platform. You're being like, hey, here's how to use it. Here's how these athletes can help you. You're giving this information to companies that where you said from a small scale all the way up to even talking about internationally, this is something that is going to bring these companies in because it's a value add that you're giving them. You're not fully asking something yet. You're trying to help grow the platform from the roots all the way into, trying to grow it. And just
exactly
to
right.
Just to stick
It's
on
important
the
to us.
business side.
Yeah, it's important to us. If we can have both sides be successful, then ultimately we're successful. And without either one of those parties at the table, enjoying the experience, actually doing it, we're not going to take off. So it's very important for us, for everybody who comes to the platform, to have a meaningful value add, just as you mentioned.
Yeah, and just to stick on the business side for now, we're gonna transfer to the athlete side soon. Is what have you seen? You know, either ones that you're able to mention that have tried to come on the platform, or the ones that you've already vetted to be on the Huckle platform. What kind of companies have you seen?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So we've seen companies from everything. We've got a local business here, which is in the beauty sector. We just brought on beauty as one of the interest sets, which is new for us. That's on a local San Diego business level. And so it's neat because we're getting local support. Then we're in conversations with large national brands who are looking to do significant marketing campaigns through our platform. So because we're in beta right now, there is a part of us where we're having to, we've got this massive roadmap ahead of us of what we want the platform to be. So we just want to be very pragmatic in the companies that are coming on to say that we can deliver on what they're looking for, and we're not over promising anything. So this is a very humble time in our business where we're being real about what we can achieve. We're being completely thankful for anybody who comes on our platform, and we're trying to help everybody involved. And the neat thing is that we are getting this interest from both a local level all the way into a national level, and we believe that we can serve both. So that's the unique prospect. And I think when we look at the various companies that can come on the platform, we're seeing it from all different sectors, which is really, really neat. And I think the fact that they're validating the marketplace as we see it, which is they see the value in working with athletes, and the fact that they're even coming on the platform is sort of, a green light for us to keep moving forward.
Yeah, I think obviously, you have all these things from the small areas, which keeping you guys in San Diego, you guys are both based out of California. You're going to realize how important it is for people on the business side to join you. And then the athlete side, they're going to see that it's not just some big name company. If they're in the San Diego area, they can be like, oh, I know this beauty shop, or, that my friend goes there, or this, you guys are based out of San Diego. You're based out of this city, and that's where I live. So it's not just some big name company that is going to forget about me in 2 weeks. You're kind of forcing, in a good way, forcing that relationship to be built on a small level, and it's going to be better on a large scale on a national level, because people are going to see, okay, well, they have both. I'm not just hiding behind some big corporation. I've seen this thing that has deep roots. So for the athlete side, what kind of athletes can come into Huckle?
Trey can talk to this. It's funny. So we have this list of all these different sports, and we thought, there are sports, and I'll name a few so certainly we have all the big sports that you can think of. We have on there esports, which we know is a massive marketplace. We have on there arm wrestling. We have dance, cheerleading, bands, which would be marching bands for college, as an example. We have cornhole on there. So if you can imagine, like, all of these different sports that are out there, we believe that there is a large marketplace for all these different athletes. And the irony is that when we look at these different sports, and Trey can talk about this too, we had dialogue around it of, like, where do we draw the line? Like, do we bring in poker as an example, or gambling? Those are all still TBDs, but our list is very large. And what we're acknowledging, and that we've already seen right out of the gate, is that athletes from all these different sports, the breadth of sports, when you look at it, it's a massive marketplace. And when you look at another one that we have is rodeo and bull riding. That's a massive marketplace with a lot of dollars and a lot of companies that want to work with those athletes. And so when we look at these from a marketplace standpoint, we see massive markets at play. It's just a matter of getting the word out there. And so our platform, if you were to come on, I think you'd be surprised at the breadth of sports in terms of which athletes can. We're talking all the way from high school. So high school right now, name, image, and likeness is legal in several states. We're in California. It is actually legal in the state of California for high school athletes to come on. Our caveat there is if they do come on and they're a minor, we do require a waiver, consent from their parents or guardian. So it goes all the way from high school through college to professional and retired. So we work with some athletes that are retired and have been for decades, but are still very marketable. So when you look at that, just in terms of a marketplace, we think the potential is just massive.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of sports out there that necessarily don't get the primetime recognition, but have very, very large and solid and passionate fan bases that we definitely want to work with and kind of bring to the forefront outside of the big three sports, being basketball, baseball, and football. There's so many other sports out there that are underrepresented and not being provided a lot of the same opportunities to, have access or utilize these marketing opportunities. And so we want to kind of uncover those sports as well and show them some love and provide opportunities for those sports and those athletes to shine as well.
And I'll direct this to Trey because it's who I've worked with. I feel like you talked with me, you've talked to a few others. With your history as the not just the athletic training side of that whole life training that you've been doing, have you found that maybe you've been able to bring in some more people that in their own mind wouldn't think that they'd be able to qualify or to be the right fit for a platform like this?
Well, yeah, a lot of athletes kind of either, they want to make the money and they think they can do it by showing up, just by showing up. Then you have some athletes that don't really recognize that, hey, you are a, walking billboard. You're a walking entity. Like you travel cities and locations, different schools, different towns. And so you have a huge footprint in terms of the different markets that you set foot in. And so there's lots of opportunity there. If you take advantage and able to present yourself in a way that would be inviting and welcoming to different companies and brands. And so, so a lot of it is kind of breaking down those barriers and communicating with the different athletes that, hey, this is a reality. You can do this if you can do A, B, C, or X, Y, Z. And then just also let some other athletes know, hey, here's a way that you can do this organically. Because there's some other platforms out there, some other guys out there that strictly want to utilize the top 5% of athletes. They strictly want to base your opportunity to engage in market opportunities. They're going to base that strictly off, social media metrics. And that discounts a lot of athletes and neglects a lot of athletes and then kind of turns away. And a lot of athletes think that, hey, NAL is great, but, I can't do it because I'm not at a blue blood school or a large school, or I'm not in one of the major three sports. And it's just not true. You just, some things you can do to put yourself in position. A lot of that's just kind of an educational curve and letting them and making them understand that, hey, this is a possibility. Here's what we can do. Here's the options for you. Here's what's available in the marketplace. And just breaking down those barriers and just kind of letting them know that, hey, that you can do this.
And I can personally attest to that. I've been club level rugby for the majority of my career. I have played Air Force, but that was the highest level. I've never been selected to a select side. Every time there was a professional team tryout, I was either hurt or working, or there's no way that I could get there. And I didn't think that this was the type of thing for me until I was fortunate enough to be able to try out for the Carolina Storm team. And that is how I found out about Huckle. And like I said, talking with people like Ty and Garen and learning about what you guys have to offer, I didn't think that I was anywhere near that level personally. That wasn't something that I would advertise. And it was not until I talked to you guys that I realized that there was an opportunity for me. Even if it is smaller than the top 5%, it's still there. And there's still people that I can reach. There's still companies that I can partner with that because we agree on something.
Yeah, oh, totally.
That's neat.
And I want to ask you, besides, obviously, I know the rugby players because a lot of us do talk to each other. What other sports have already been brought on? What other athletes have you already vetted into the system currently?
Yeah, so you mentioned vetted. I think we'll get to a point where we actually do have to do that. Right now, the numbers are small enough that we can actually look at the individuals and know, a little bit about their background. All the athletes are required to bring on, once they join the platform, is to share a little bit about themselves. That's how a company, when they're looking at the profile of the athlete, that you share a part of yourself so that the company can get an understanding of who you are. And we joked a little bit about in the beginning that this is somewhat of a matchmaking service. And the reality is it's true. You know, it is, what does the athlete do? How is it, you know, I think from the company's perspective, they're looking at everything from what is the specific sport, where do they live, what are their interest sets, obviously, what is their gender, like all of these different things that play into what a round integrated marketing campaign would look like. They can select that on our platform. But where do we have athletes from? We have, and the unique thing is, which is really amazing to see, is that everybody has a unique story. And that's where we look at it and say, that uniqueness of everybody's unique story is something that's really important to us. And so we have athletes from rugby, yes, as you mentioned. We just announced a partnership with the Professional Triathlete Organization, which is one of the largest organizations for triathletes in the world. And they have somewhat of a similar mission to us in that they're trying to bring more money to the sport, and they're trying to help out the athletes and make it become more mainstream. So that announcement just happened. We have bobsledders, we have para-Olympians, we have an ice climber out of Europe. We have football players, baseball players. We even have somebody from the rodeo now that we've actually reached out to them. So when you look at the number of athletes that are coming on, I think the unique thing is we get to look at it and say there's a lot of breadth here. And it's funny, if you sit down and you ask people, what are the athletes, what are the sports that you think about? The big ones come to mind. But when you look at all the list of sports, it becomes very big very quickly. And so we believe that on our platform, we welcome all the sports. We welcome the companies that want to work with those sports. And, you know, and going back to that vetting process, our only vetting process is that you're coming on, you're being real and authentic, and that you're really, you know, you're bringing something meaningful to the platform and contributing to the community. That's what we're looking for.
And I just want to kind of touch, we talk about like the opportunity. So if people want to know, I have the website up, from brand ambassador to brand awareness campaigns, social media projects, such as putting out posts, and then there's different things, content creators on here, and the pays are very well. I mean, depending on what one you're looking at anywhere from $100 to a few $100s. So this isn't this isn't companies trying to get you to use their discount code and they're going to give you 10% for these ads. You know, I'm talking to the athletes right now. These are real monetary things that you can get paired with these companies and receive accurate compensation for your work, and being paired with a company that you want to support. You're not just going to some supplement company on their website and getting a 10% code. These are real partnerships and real opportunities that are being offered to us. And I say us because I am one of you. Yeah. And, you know, I just said about the businesses that are on there and the different types of things they can do. How would a business be able to be added to the opportunity list?
Yep, it's a good question. So it's really easy to come on. If you're a business, you can come onto the platform. When you sign up, it will ask you, are you an athlete or are you a company? And if you're a business, obviously you go the company route. It asks you for a few things. You know, tell us a little bit about the company. What is it that you do? Where are you located? And then once the company has a profile, they're in the system. And they can create what we refer to as opportunities. And opportunities are, just as the naming convention is, it's almost like a job posting for athletes. And so companies will be able to put out there what exactly they're looking for. So again, the sports, the region, whatever their requirements are for a specific marketing effort. And athletes can then apply to those opportunities. And the companies can say, this is a fit, this is not a fit. Now, again, we're in our beta mode, so there's a little bit of limitation as to what you can do, but ultimately it will get to companies can really drill down to the exact specifics of what they're looking for, and a whole list of athletes will become prevalent. So the companies can either reach out to athletes and say you're a fit, or they can make the job public, in which case the athletes can actually apply to it. But the whole process, we did a lot of user research prior to building the product. And that was with athletes who would use it, companies that would use it, agents that would use it, and agencies that would use it. And so all of those user groups, we asked, what is important to you? What would you look for? And we built a product around those specific needs. So if you don't see it in beta right now, I think a lot of those things, I know a lot of those things are coming down the road, but it's a very easy setup process. And we've got customer support on there. So if there is an issue, people come to a stopping point, they need some help, we're always there to help them as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I can attest to that. I was talking to Stephanie one time. It was my fault. It was user error, 100%. It wasn't anybody else's fault. I thought I had applied for something. I ended up not. I also had my Instagram handle on there wrong, and she was very personable and fixed it all for me within that first week. So it's very personable, very great customer service. And I do want to just point out, we talk a lot about national level because that's what people eventually want to get to, but you're really helping the little guy. Like, you're really helping these small businesses, these local businesses, these athletes. You talk about arm wrestling. By the way, we completely went by. You talked about someone who's an ice climber. I understood that existed, but I never put it two and two in my head. Sure. How insane of a sport that is.
Right.
And so you have these niches, but these niches still have opportunities. You have people that are in these worlds. You have people that follow it. You have people who follow rugby, people who follow arm wrestling, people who follow rodeo. There's going to be opportunities everywhere, and creating this platform for these companies to give out opportunities and athletes to take these. You're really helping these small guys, people that if you think about it, most likely wouldn't have that chance if it wasn't for this platform you guys are creating, whether it's in beta or it's in its final stages, whatever it comes into fruition. That is something that you guys have built, you and your team.
Yeah, thanks. Trey can attest to this too. We've had a lot of conversations on having it be meaningful for anybody who comes on the platform. So that means any company at any size. And you mentioned the price points of what are on the platform. We haven't yet found what are the sweet spots for price points. We know that we're in a learning curve ourselves too. But because I'm a marketing person, I think that a lot of people don't necessarily know the value of the world of sports. And so, because I'm a marketing guy, I can look at sports survived the pandemic. Mm-hmm. That was one thing that people were still able to watch was sports, live sports. And from an advertising perspective, that is the number one thing you can spend your advertising dollars on is live sports. It has the most engagement, most viewership. So it is the best single investment you can make from an advertising perspective. So when I looked at that and said, all right, how do you give that same tool to companies of any size? And that's this access to athletes in their world of sports. And the price points are, you mentioned some $100, $200. Companies can come in and try this and see, does it work for them? And this local business I mentioned in San Diego, it's going to work for them. And it's a very small entry fee to get in the door for that investment. So we see it at all different levels. And the other part is that education. We know that a lot of companies haven't worked in the world of sports before. So how do we help them understand the value of that? And how do we give them the tools to do it on our platform? So all of those things are coming. They're important for us to be able to share that knowledge and really connect those two parties so that we have a really meaningful marketplace.
Well, I'm going to ask, is there any way we can try to get Zevia on there? Because I've been working at this for a year and I've got 0 responses.
I love it. Yeah.
So get into some of the final questions. Where would you like to see Huckle in 1 year and then in 5 years?
Trey, you want to give that one a swing?
Well, I'll go with the 1 year. The 1 year, I would like to see Huckle having a lot of the different diversified sport athletes from sports on the platform, working with a lot of the brands, and a lot of brands. Really, I would be happy to see a lot of the brands that typically don't have access or can't get access to the live sports marketing space get on the platform. Outside of your corporate guys like your Nikes and your Amazons, I like to see the other guys be able to get into the live sports marketing space. Like Michael mentioned, live sports survived the pandemic, and it works two ways for the companies and the athletes because when you're watching live sports, you want to see it live. You don't want to watch that on TV or recorded. So automatically, you're going to get more eyeballs than you would a TV show or some type of concert performance or something else like that, because you want to see the sports live, right? And so that garners more eyeballs, provides more opportunities, and so I just like to see Huckle grow, continue to get built out, and really let the athletes and companies define what that platform is going to look like and really how it's going to take shape. Because they're the ones ultimately using the platform, and we want it to be conducive and the user experience to be positive for the athlete and the company. And so I would just like to see kind of that underrepresented, I guess, both athletes and companies have access to the live sports marketing space in an authentic way and connect on both sides with the athletes and companies, based off their shared interests and passions, and with authentic marketing efforts that make sense for both sides and that really are just authentic and real.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And Michael, where do you hope it is in 5 years?
So I completely agree with what Trey said. The 5-year mark, our mission is really to help everybody who comes in on our community. So if we do that well, then 5 years is in our future, right? Because we're truly showing opportunities for athletes. They're making money. We're showing the companies that there is value in working with athletes. And so that's really our mission, is to create this community where everybody benefits from being a part of it. And we know that education is going to be a key component of that. So we are looking to help athletes, give them tools, help companies give them tools so that they can become more successful. So, if I were to look at a 5-year mark, if we could keep doing that really well on a daily basis, we get to our 5 years. That would be really important to me personally, and hopefully at a 5-year mark, there's an understanding of what that value is on both sides, and it just continues to grow. That would be like, if we could keep doing the daily thing of showing that meaningful thing, I think our 5 years comes to play, and that would be really special.
Yeah, I think also a big thing, which we really didn't touch on because we wanted to save it for next week, is when we get the name, image, likeness in there. We've got Trey and Ty on next week for that. You're really going to take it far, because you're going to have these high school, these collegiate athletes, people that until recently haven't had the opportunity. They're now going to have the opportunity to help get some actual compensation. Like I said, I'm not going to go into it. I want to talk about it next week. So with that, before we get to our closing 3F questions, is there anything else you wanted to share about Huckle that I might have missed?
I don't think so, TJ. I think you do a great job. I think you asked some great questions. I don't. I think the one thing that I guess that I would say is that we are in beta, so there's much more to come. We're going to have a lot more product features. I think you're going to be hearing more updates from us as to partnerships that we're having. So there's a lot more in the works that we're not sharing right now, but is definitely behind the curtain, and we're ready to unveil in short time.
Oh, for sure. I can attest to just some of the basic emails I get from the company guys. One, Huckle up, Huckle _up on Instagram and TikTok. Make sure you guys follow them. Check them out online if you're interested at huckleup.com. There's some great things in the work, and if anything that you can attest to throughout life or throughout any of my episodes is bear with it. There's a lot of lessons that we've learned through all the previous guests, through you two, through our personal stories and personal anecdotes that we've added. Trust the process when you can tell that something is going to be big, and this is going to be one of those things, guys. Guys and girls, this is a platform that is going to be very important, and it has a very meaningful reason for being founded. So if you guys can stick with it, if you're an athlete, you're a business that want to get on early, don't hesitate, because this is a very passionate thing obviously for you two, because you guys created this, but for me coming on as an athlete, it's something that I want to get behind and watch grow.
That's great to hear. Thanks.
Yeah. Kind
So,
word.
Trey, you answered these last week. We'll try to make them really quick. So, Michael, obviously you and your wife have built up Huckle, your friends. Outside of that, how does your family life keep you successful?
Wow. they're the biggest support group, right? I mean, family is the number one thing. It's why I'm doing what I do. They're I literally just went through COVID, so that was a whole thing. And family is the reason I do everything. It's the reason why I wake up in the morning.
That's, that is obviously you can't have, if you don't have that support group, you can't get through. On the second note, how does fitness improve your life?
Well, so I mentioned I was just in COVID. It actually was a big bout. One of the things that I'm doing right now is being with a trainer and actually getting back to where I was before. And what I've realized is and I've known this about my entire life. So I'm a cyclist, a skier. I golf as well. It's not really a golf game, but I like to be out there, hit the ball around. But fitness is very important. And I realize when you don't have that, how fragile it actually is. So coming out of what happened with COVID, I'm able to put that in perspective and say, you know what, it's a daily activity that I do. And when your body's feeling good, your mind's just as clear. And that's been, I knew it certainly in my life, but I can tell you going through a bump with health, I'm able to look at that and say the true value is there on doing it on a daily basis. And it's top of mind and it keeps my head clear and going.
Well, I know not only for podcast reasons, but for everyone, we're really happy that you're able to push through COVID and get back and start working on your health again. So last question, what would be your biggest piece of financial advice that you can offer to the listeners?
So I'm going to put this in perspective of what Huckle is. And so for athletes, for financial purposes, the whole reason that we're doing Huckle is so that athletes have further financial opportunities. It's the number one thing. And we look at a lot of the athletes, as I mentioned, the tenures are so short. And because of my agency, we work with professional athletes and they're so incredibly focused on their training. And I'm also trying to have dialogue with them to say, you're training, you're performing at your top sport. You also want to be looking at how do you leverage this great time in your life into something more. It's why we're building the platform, is so that you're doing your sports right now. You have a level of visibility, a circle of influence that is happening because you're playing that sport. Now's the time to build that into other financial opportunities. So my number one thing would be, again, in context of this conversation, if you're an athlete, come to the platform. We'll help you build financial opportunities, and now is the time while you're doing it with the circle of influence. It's imperative to do it now and not wait until tomorrow.
I think that is some very powerful advice for all the athletes on there. So I just want to say, on behalf of the 3F family and myself personally, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Trey, for everything. Thank you for coming on today. It was an honor to have you guys on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having us, TJ. It was a pleasure.
All right, and make sure you guys stay tuned next week for Trey and Ty on NIL, and make sure you check them out, Huckle Up, on TikTok, Instagram, and their website. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.